morning, good afternoon, hopefully not good night yet. We've got a great show today on the RHMax channel. I'm Max, your host, as usual. If someone else becomes your host, that would be strange because, it's my show so far, so good. Welcome everyone to join us this Friday morning, afternoon, depending on where you are. We got a good show today. I'm excited to talk with Maddie Allin. I was talking to him a few minutes ago and just being in the community again passively for the last few years, just kind of watching from the sidelines, I've got to see a lot of people put out a lot of great work. And Maddie's one of the ones. I mean, he does a lot of stuff around conferences, mental health, just a force in the community. And of course, there's not enough time in the world to thank him for all the stuff that's been going on as far as moving us forward. And it's been nice to watch, definitely, and I'm glad to finally be able to interact some and be able to ask them some questions. We got a lot of different topics to go into. Of course, we're going to talk about HEX, Pulse, everything like that, but also physical, mental health, your longevity. I'd like to talk a little bit of longevity. I was jealous that he got to do I was watching one of his the Sins virtual meetup conference deal. I thought that was pretty interesting, so I'd like to get his perspective on that as well. So anyways, without further ado, let's welcome Maddie Allin.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm used to on your show you're like, and we're live, but
we're live.
Yeah,
welcome.
It's funny because I had RG3 on the other day, and I was totally did not expect him to do the gun deal, and he shoots it, and then the pirate, and I'm like, holy shit, he did it. So I'm always wondering, if people have a routine, if guests on the show, if they have a routine, are they going to bring it with them or not? No pressure whatsoever. It's always fun for me to see what happens like that.
Right on. Well, I'm really excited to get into our discussions. I've been impressed by you from what I've seen, and for example, I really like your brand name. That's cool.
Some people do, some people don't. It's it's hard not to alienate some people who describe themselves as not RHMaxies, but for me, it's like I'll take it. I guess it's kind of, I don't know how else to describe myself after following him for since 2017. I've just grown to believe that hey, if I'm going to buy one stock, it's going to be RH stock, and no matter what he does, what projects are going on, I think it's there's worse people to follow for sure.
Well, that's one of the things that before I got started as a streamer, I spent like way too long, like 3 or 4 weeks trying to decide what I would call myself. And, brands, they are important because you have to live with whatever your brand name is. And even Richard Heart has spoken a lot about how important branding is. That's one of the tests that I do, I guess, subconsciously when I run into other streamers, is I'm thinking if they've seen every Richard Heart video like I have, then they know all of his awesome alpha on brand names are important. You should put some effort into it, that sort of thing. And for me, it was like 3 or 4 weeks of going round and round in circles. And then I ended up settling on my first name and my middle name as my stage name. So Maddie Allin, here I am.
I've always wondered if it's Maddie Allin or Maddie Allin, and I can't remember how you say it half the time. So I was just guessing when I said Allin, but I can also I think Allin is also a cool way of if people mistakenly think Allin, that's also a cool name too, right?
I had to change the spelling of Maddie and Allin in order to uniquely rank on Google. So I did that. That was part of the drawn out process. Was like, if I did M-A-T-Y, that somebody could pronounce that as Métis or something like that. So I went round and round, but then I got something that's kind of unique. There's nobody else who is spelling it that way. So, and the All-In is, of course, I am All-In HEX and the RH ecosystem. So
it makes sense, man. Yeah, it's very easy to Google. When I was looking for some of the videos, I just off the top of my head, I just said Maddie Allin, or again, in my head, I say Allin. When I'm speaking, I say
as you should. As you should.
Yeah. So it was super easy to find your stuff. So well done on that. It's funny, the marketing point from RH2. Again, I'm with you. I've seen every stream, and there's so many times he would even have people on the show, and he'd be like, and he would give them the feedback in real time. I'm like, ooh, okay. But
Yeah.
even to this day, I internalize that. I'm like, so when I see somebody who has, they have a handle that's spelled in a very unique way, or, it's like, man, it always harken back to what Ari said about that. And that makes so much sense. And, but not all people, once you have a big following too, it's really hard to rebrand. So at that point, what is the decision? Do you rebrand, or you just keep going with it? If you have 100 followers versus 10,000, it's probably a different decision, right?
Yeah. In the end, you can go back to Shakespeare and say, a rose by any other name, wouldn't it be just as sweet and thorny? And wouldn't we still be in a bear market?
That's true. That's true. I want to say hi to the chat real quick. Lazy Hexkin, Jen Hext, Tin Top. Appreciate it. Do you all share the link out? It's going to be a banging show, I have a feeling, in a very good way. Jerry Oak-Smith, Jerry's usually first. I get so I try to put his comments out. He's usually first. He's in the waiting room a lot of times, and I'm sure he comes back to it later. He doesn't like sit there staring at his phone, but always appreciate the support. Yeah, let's get into it. I mean, you kind of alluded to your background, your name a little bit, but outside of your name, outside of getting into crypto, I know you've said this 100,000 times. It's probably half as much, or at least as RH has when he goes on people's streams and stuff. Like, how did you get into crypto? How did you find Richard? All that stuff.
Yeah, well, getting into crypto wasn't just, it didn't happen all at once. And so when I look back, I think, well, I bought my first Ethereum for $13 back when The Economist magazine was talking about this first DAO that eventually got hacked, or they had to fork the chain in order to recover from it. But I wasn't really in crypto then, because I just when I did get into crypto a year later, so now I just passed my 5-year mark on June 1st. That's when I really started following it. That's when the price of Bitcoin surpassed the price of gold. And gold was around 2,000, 2,500, somewhere in there at the time. And that was right before the Bitcoin Cash fork that happened. So there was a lot of price volatility during that time. That's when I started dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. And, the rest is history, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, well, so from then, but then you got into Bitcoin. But how'd you find Richard out? I'm just curious.
So I had done 7 years working in a neuroscience laboratory, and I had done at that time maybe 5 years of being a mental health counselor, maybe 4 or 5. And so I knew almost immediately in crypto that one of the coolest use cases I could ever think of was for people to pay themselves for behavior change. In the laboratory that I worked in, we paid people $1,000 to quit smoking tobacco. And we gave them all of the other things that they would need: accountability, medicine, nicotine patches, support, all these kinds of things. But we also paid them $1,000. That was their bonus for remaining smoke free. We also paid them for their time, but that was the bonus. And so that experience, even though I was very young and didn't know everything I know now, it's like it opened me up to this world of contingency management. And so I had decided that I wanted to try to build something in crypto. And so I tried to program basically a Fitbit thing to where every time I took a step, I would pay myself like a few Satoshis or something. And I ran into the fee problem. And so at that point, I had to abandon all hope, right? So I started learning other things, because I'm not a programmer by training or anything. I just taught myself how to run a Bitcoin node. I read the book Mastering Bitcoin by Andreas and did all these things. And I still I'm not good at coding, but I did it. And so that's when I started learning about Bitcoin free claims. And there were 2 or 3 Bitcoin free claims at the time. It was Bitcoin Rhodium, Mimblewimble coin, and HEX. Those were the basket of things that I found that either had a Bitcoin free claim or they were offering some sort of yield. In Bitcoin Rhodium, I think they were doing a quarterly dividend program for the first 3 years. And so these were all examples of something where it was learning how to free claim something that required me to up my game when it comes to like, being a power user. So I had to learn how to get my Bitcoin off of exchanges so that I could sign a private statement, sign a public statement showing that I owned the Bitcoin. And so that's why I started paying attention to Richard Heart, and that's how I found HEX right before it launched.
Wow, that's an interesting angle. So you came into HEX and Richard from the Freeclaim angle because you were searching around for opportunities there. I would have never thought that direction. I mean, back then I think we had a similar timeline as far as that goes, but I wasn't looking for the Freeclaim. I guess I should have been now that you mention it, but I was into the shit coin of the month, all the different coins. I mean, 2016 was a crazy year. I couldn't sleep. I remember for the first month or two after I discovered crypto, I was writing, so because I have a development background, I was actually like writing these scripts that I remember I had one that would scrape CoinMarketCap, and it would tell me I could configure it to certain percentages. It would give me an alert on my phone. It would like send me an email. I had this email account set up. It would send me an email every time something was like pumping really hard or going down really hard. And then like that was like my notification system back then. That was like the script that I wrote. So I was like trying to time, all the trading stuff, all the crap all the degen stuff, I guess you would call these days. But I was not looking for Freeclaim, so that's really cool. That's a good story. Let's see. Let's check it real quick. Oh, Gen HEX. We are going to get into conferences as well. Actually, funny enough, yeah. Why don't we? Because I got something to show you all. So richardheart.max. Let's see. You can see my shirt. These
nice.
So
I
there's
love
different
it.
ones. Yeah. So I printed a bunch of different ones. This one since 2017. I have 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. And then you can't hardly see it, but anyways, it says CFD token Roger Ver Scivive. I think it's what it says. So each one I went through and tried to pick a highlight of the stuff going on at the time, of like the different big events, different interviews I thought were really interesting. I remember Richard blew up a lot with the Roger Ver interview back then. And then since he's had plenty of other ones that he became more popular with. So these will be, if you're at PulseCon, hopefully I will be there too if everything goes well, and I will be giving these shirts away. And they're limited edition. I made a bunch of them. I only have a few. So if you're around me, we meet up, we see each other, whatever. You may get your own Richard Heart Maximalism shirt if you want it. If you don't want to associate with Richard Heart Maximalism, you don't have to do that either. But hopefully we'll be able to. Hopefully we'll have people wearing them around, kind of spread the word and that stuff too. It doesn't have my Twitter handle on it. It doesn't have any of that. It's not about promoting myself. It's just about Richard Heart Maximalism in general. I think he's got a lot of healthy ideas. I like the guy. He makes a lot of people rich. Health, wealth, wisdom. That's my kind of guy right there. So let's get into conferences too. I want to talk about HEX conference. I don't know how much you have to do with the PulseCon, but just can you just walk us through?
I have nothing to do with it, and
okay.
I am shocked by the how I am not supporting it. So I don't want to FUD the thing, but I'm happy to talk about other stuff. So I want everybody to be successful in what they do. I want people to not get scammed, and all I can control is the events that I am associated with, and I'm not associated with that one.
Gotcha. Okay, but you definitely are associated with HEX conference, right?
That's right. So
let's go into that. And I want to say I wish I could have made it the last couple of years. I really that would have been great. I just couldn't do it. And next year I really hope to make it. PulseCon will be my first conference, just hanging out with people from the community if all goes well. But I just couldn't make it to the last two. But they were well organized. I watched them online, and you did an excellent job with them. But can you kind of tell us like how it happened? Like, kind of give us the nuts and bolts. Like, how do you even create a conference like that? How do you organize, and how did it come to be, and all those things?
Of course, yeah. And so the number one principle that I learned when I got into streaming was cross promotion. That when I promote other people, and they, mutually promote me, that's the best way we can grow as a community. It's filling the world with positivity. And, until you get infiltrated by bad actors, then like that works out really well. And so in the early days of HEX, you know, I kind of like came in at just the right time because I didn't even know about the community for the first 6 months. And that's when all like the scam stuff was being built on HEX, like all the Travon's contracts that are like the least scammy thing that was built, and then like the most scammy thing was like shrimp farming and all these forks of HEX that didn't work out and that sort of thing. So like anyway, I didn't know about all that, and so I came in. I wanted to spread the message of mental health and HEX because I had studied crypto for years and not really had people to talk to about it. And so with the help of Hexologist and Discourse Syndicate and like 40 other streamers, I was able to organize the first online HEX conference. And that was on January 6th through 9th of 2020. And it was a huge success. Richard Hart agreed to speak at it. He ended up bragging for quite some time after that, you know, he didn't have anything to do with organizing it. And it was completely community driven. And so that really instilled something in me going forward that, you know, I would try to be a net positive for the community and, but not ask permission from Richard to do things because there is a lot of credibility in the fact that our community is independent.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
You do the work, as he says.
Yeah. We do the work. And so, you know, the first HEX conference, it was an amazing opportunity to showcase the power of how united the community was. And coming out of that, then I had already experienced like all these different people and could tell who I worked well with. And that led to the forming of Quant Gang, which was a show that lasted for over a year. And, you know, it became like a huge staple in most people's week. Like on Tuesday nights, we would go for 3 to 5 hours, sometimes longer, sometimes 6 or 8 hours with Wales only and Kareem and myself and sometimes Future Us, sometimes other guests. But it was, you know, that was a really amazing time. And then I decided because of my research background and I've presented at conferences all over the world, then I decided to do the first in-person event would be a meetup that we did last year at the end of June in Las Vegas. Kareem and I rode a tank. We smashed a car with a tank at Battlefield Vegas with a big HEX flag flying. It was 110 degrees. My brand new iPhone like practically melted to where it stopped recording live on YouTube and stuff. So it was like, it's pretty incredible. We had 369 people pay $69 to come to this like multi-day meetup. And so that was super encouraging. And then coming out of that in the fall, Crypto Sparbach did a 40 US city tour of the United States doing HEX workshops in every city. And I heavily cross-promoted with them. I ended up buying the HEX DeLorean in September.
Nice.
And, you know, that's a symbol of paying your future self, which is what you do when you time lock HEX. And then I did the online HEX conference again for the second year on the same dates in 2022. Okay, so the first one was at the beginning of 2021. And then the second one was here, January 6th through 9th, 2022. That had like over 100 channels participated.
Wow.
And then we did the in-person conference in Las Vegas where we had, because there were some problems with that I won't go into, it was going to be a much bigger event, but it ended up being really successful, having about 600 people there. It was only $369 for a 4-day event with merch and lunch served and having an AV team and everything. So I made no profit and saved people. It went to an extreme amount of effort to save everybody every dollar they could so that they could sacrifice for PulseChain and PulseX, because every dollar you save somebody, my thinking was they could get a 10,000x.
I like that. Every dollar you save is $10,000 for it potentially. I like that.
So now the next thing on the horizon is, and nobody knows when I might have a huge announcement about an in-person event coming up, but we'll wait until that's a reality before we announce that. But the thing that I can tell you now is that we're coming up very soon on the online Pulse conference, the first ever that I'll be hosting here in the middle of July. And Richard Hart has again agreed to speak at that, along with a ton of other people that I'm really looking forward to having. So that'll be July 14th through 16th, which is the 1-year anniversary of the PulseChain sacrifice.
Oh, the date we are conflicted to get to. Yes, so just to be clear, there's 2 Pulse conferences, one happening in September, which is the one I'm most aware of until now, and then you're doing an online Pulse conference in July. Is that correct?
That's right. It'll be the 14th through the 16th on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Matty Allin, MATI.
That's awesome. Oh, good to know. I totally somehow missed that. Hey, I think the whole community. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for PulseChain to come out to like really hit the marketing hard with like all the amazing guests I have lined up. And now it's just like, okay, well, we're going to do it anyway. It's the 1-year anniversary of the PulseChain sacrifice. People have made hundreds and hundreds of hours of content explaining what PulseChain and PulseX are. We have the testnet available. So this online conference will go on no matter what the status is of PulseChain.
That's awesome. No, I'm down. More conferences, the better. I think they really help to put, well, first the cross collaboration too, just the aspects of like bringing other people into the conference that aren't into HEX. They're in other communities, kind of like, how Richard's watches and Louis Vuitton and all this stuff. That's what I like about conferences. It can bring, I've showed up at conferences before, unrelated to HEX and Pulse and things, and there's people there. They're completely different industries. And my first thought is like, why are you here? But not in a way, like not an uninviting way, just like, how did you find out about this completely different industry, completely different topic, all this stuff? And a lot of times it's, I have a friend that's into it, or, I saw it online, or I was in town for it. So that's a really good way to bring more people in that have nothing to do with crypto or HEX or anything, and show them what the community is about by producing such good content.
Yeah, and the connections that people make at these physical events are really incredible too. I can't speak enough to how much positive energy there is at any kind of HEX meetup. I had a HEX meetup a couple weeks ago where we opened a $2 million animal shelter that a HEX shark paid for. Shout out to Art Morikawa.
Wow.
And then coming up here next week in Chicago, the big Kurkowski organized a HEX meetup that people can learn about by going to my blog on Medium. And that's going to be really awesome. It's just, I love the ones that I organize because it keeps me busy now that I'm retired and working harder than ever. And then the ones I don't organize are also amazing because I get to actually interact freely.
And take a breath, and then just well, it's fun too. I mean, you can imagine how many people through the work that you did in all these different areas, you probably inspired a lot of people, and I imagine that feels good to see other people doing spending their time, spending their money, energy, resources to go do other projects where scaling yourself, kind of like how Richard he wants to make more people like him, right? He wants glory. He wrote Scivive to as this sort of like tell people a lot of these ideals, popularize them, get them, healthy, wealthier, happier lives and all this stuff. So in a way, for conferences, then you could think of, you probably inspire a lot of people to go do more stuff, more than they ever were motivated before to do, because they see it's possible. They see that they can get success through it, and they see that it works and it's effective. And there's nothing more motivating than, I think that's, again, coming back to you do the work and what Richard says. I think that's such an underrated point of psychology too. Like if you motivate people through money, if you believe that's a huge motivator, and you have them have a stake in a project, pumping your own bags, you doing the work, not relying on other people and where you just sit around, that's super motivating. I think that's just like in psychology 101 type motivating.
One thing, you're totally correct there. And one thing that I didn't realize would happen when I started meeting people who are fans or who have tuned in to a lot of my work, that is probably the number one thing that I like about meeting people now is there are people out there who have listened to every word I've ever said on YouTube. And when I meet them, it's incredible because I can learn so much from them. Because we have this shared we have this shared idea pool, and then but they know lots of other things that they've never said to me, and so it's incredible to hear people's ideas because they know perfectly everything I know, and so they also know what I don't know. So when I meet them, they can like teach me so much.
Yeah, it's when you watch people, streaming and stuff, and then you meet them. It's kind of like you already have this shared basis. You kind of know what each other's about, and then it's so much easier than just meeting. You're not strangers anymore. It's kind of this strange, like, I've seen your work and I've heard you talk for hours, for example, and now I know how to communicate with you. You don't feel like a stranger because even though it's been a one-way communication, I can talk to you and feel comfortable. So that's the thing about the internet that makes it so special too, is you get to know people like that. Like, I think we all, if you watch enough of Richard, you feel like you know him too. Even though I've never met Richard in real life, I feel like I could have a conversation as if we were friends or we knew each other for a long time. Maybe not so much on his side to me, because I'm sure he doesn't know much about me, but from what I've seen to him, it's crazy.
When you go to PulseCon, you'll meet complete strangers who look at you as if they've known you for a long time and speak to you that way, and it's a really cool, unique experience. To go back to kind of this bigger idea that you're talking about, how staking psychology and HEX is different than holding other investments. Something I've just recently discovered, I think, that I haven't had a ton of time to process. And shout out to David Feeder. I think I had this aha moment when he and I were doing a stream together the other day, is that, the number of whales in the HEX ecosystem that are like it's not 100% that we know who they are, but like that we have an idea of who the whales are is like, it's incredible. Like whales and sharks are more public in HEX, it seems, than in any other coin I'm aware of. If you try to figure out who the original Bitcoiners are, very, very few of them stuck around. The ones that did got corrupted by the businesses that they started, interacting with the fiat on and off ramps, it being a point of corruption. The people who are streaming are not the people who it made the most or who are the smartest. They're the ones who are for sale, and HEX is different in that regard, I think, to some extent as well. But the fact that I can go down a list and I can tell you who over half the whales are in HEX. Nobody can do that in Bitcoin. And it's not that I can tell you their social security numbers or their real identities, but I can tell you who they are in their online persona. And that's I think pretty incredible, and something that speaks to the fact that we are staked, and so we are kind of like compelled, for better or worse, to get out there and promote for ourselves. It's not a company. It's the first and best instance of something that's truly decentralized finance.
I just want to hit on knowing people by how they use their money. So that's like the next layer down of even streaming. You watch somebody stream, you get to know them. A lot of times you see their face or audio or their voice or whatever. But then if you look at the blockchain and see the transactions people make, you can sort of paint this picture of, okay, what kind of, are they new? Are they an experienced trader? Are they, how much they're holding, what they care about in a lot of ways. That's another interesting example too of, if you ever meet someone and you've only seen their bank records, what can you tell about them? How well do you know them? And that's the funny thing about the blockchain. A lot of times, obviously, like, it's anonymous until, you know, something happens or whatever. But I don't know if you got to connect with Coinbase. How anonymous are you? I don't know.
No, I'm actually, you may be adding to my point, or we may be missing each other a little bit. Yeah, it's people who have streamed, who have voluntarily showed their faces that we know of. It's not just that we can see the blockchain. The blockchain shows 100% of who the whales are and that sort of thing. But I mean, even if we think about, like, okay, so who are the whales that have showed their faces in HEX and, like, you know, added value? Well, you've got Richard Heart, presumably. You've got HEX 19, Rackham Rochelle, 0x Steph. You've got Conrad Zen. You've got Ski Cat. You've got the real God Whale. And then I know of one other that I won't say because I don't think that they're public. So that's like, what, 8 out of 13? And if Richard is more than one, if Richard is a Poseidon, then that could be up to like 100% of the whales are known, like that they volunteered to be known with their faces.
Right.
That is very unusual to me. And there's got to be something to that. There's like some deep psychology there, I think. And I think it goes back to what you were saying about, and what I've said before, you know, those of us who've been in this for a while and thought about it constantly, we understand the power of staking. Really, it can change your behavior. It could change your psychology.
For sure. I mean, more than even teaching you good habits like delayed gratification, and even more than that, it can. Wow, there's a lot going on there. But yeah, I think we got to the point. Very cool, man. Well, it's a great segue too. I wanted to talk to you about, you know, they say that mental health is your health, and in a lot of ways, I totally agree. I mean, if you don't have your mind, what do you have? Of course, you know, you want to stay in good shape physically and all that stuff too, but especially during this bear market, like, what are some of the things people can do to just not panic? Like, I know a lot of people are struggling out there. You know, I've talked about a lot on the stream too, of just, hey, it usually goes back up. You know, give yourself some hope. Don't make any rash decisions. Not financial advice, but it's you know, this is a time where you learn. This is the time where you evaluate your decisions or you hodl, for example. So like, what are some ways people can just be more positive and just, like, you know, make it through this bear market for however long it takes?
So making it through a bear market, you know, I've had some experience with that in Bitcoin, particularly. HEX has had a ton of dips, so there's a dip psychology that applies as well. You know, some of the major things people can do for their mental health when it comes to surviving dips is to time lock your HEX, pay your future self. And what that does is it takes the pressure off of you to decide whether to buy or sell at any given moment. If people are in Bitcoin, you know, they can talk a lot of shit about HEX, but then at the end of the day, the average Bitcoin user can sell, and the average T shareholder has to hold for 6 years, or at least 3 if they want to get their principal back. And so, you know, it's completely different dynamics, and that makes a big difference. It seems like a small thing, you know, but to give up control, basically the way that I explained it once, that Richard kind of, like, he was like, whoa, I've never thought of it like that. It was in a Twitter Spaces, and RH like jumped in, and I was saying that in HEX, it's not just that you don't have to suffer the counterparty risk of getting your keys to somebody else to get yield. That's great, but probably, and I'm gonna kind of reword this even better now in this moment, is like, the majority of the gains in HEX don't come from the APY. That's icing on the cake. The majority of the gains come from the price appreciation, which is driven by adoption and the fact that users are incentivized to lock up their money. But really, the majority of the gains come from reducing counterparty risk with your present self. Because when you send money to your future self and then you can't take it back, then you don't suffer the counterparty risk that you're not going to hold on to the 100x so that it can become 100,000x. And that's part of the psychology that has made the HEX so successful, and part of the reason why I think it will get back up no matter how long how low it goes and how long it goes low, is that at the end of the day, you always have to decide in the present moment, are you going to sell for less than the all-time high now, or are you going to wait? And if you wait liquid, then you're going to pay inflation to the people who are waiting and dilute yourself. And if you time lock, then timing the market is always going to be a difficult task. So you can spread it out in a ladder and dollar cost average out and have that be your plan. And then you don't have the counterparty risk that it's going to do a 10 or 100x and you're going to cash out because your brain goes haywire.
Yeah, and that's when it happens during these bear markets. You think, everything seems like a good idea. Oh, I love the idea of HEX. Everything's going great. And then you just see that spiral down, and that happens in every cycle, in every industry, in every market. And you just start thinking, you start questioning your decision. You start thinking, is it all? How much do I have liquid? If I needed some money, and some people got bills to pay. And if you got bills to pay, you got to make the right choice for yourself. Even if you made promises to HEX, you should keep them if you want the maximum return and you want to guarantee the system to give you, what you signed up for. But I think some of these emergency end stakes that I've been seeing the last few weeks have they just don't make any sense. Some of them are losing all their principal, and it's just like, you just paid Ethereum gas to just kill that way. I don't know. I don't understand why that would happen. Maybe they just didn't understand I guess with those, they probably just didn't understand would all go away.
So it's probably a combination of hacks.
Oh, you think? Okay, that's a good point. It could have been a hack. Yeah.
People get hacked. Also, people use other protocols that allow you to unstake without losing your principal, and so they're operating under the rules of every other staking coin that isn't immutably locked, that isn't protecting yourself from your present self, and paying your future self, and so that would probably be categorized under a lack of education. And I've referred to the emergency end stake penalty as and the setup is kind of draconian, because there isn't an exact warning of how much you're going to lose on the website. It says this is an advanced feature, and it's got a big red blinky light border that appears around it. And if people use the front end that I made or the Staker app tracker, they can see exactly how much they're going to lose. It's all calculated there. And that the most information you could find on what happens if you early end stake is going to be on go.tshare.app.
Go.tshare.app. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point about. I've looked at the psychology of the emergency end stake button. I've seen that that box pop up, and I've always thought, why doesn't it tell more information? And my conclusion was that it doesn't elaborate, not because it couldn't, because obviously that could be a feature. Other people have written as you talked about, but I think maybe it's a way to kind of put that. Hey, maybe it's trying to appeal to people who wouldn't click it if they didn't have enough information, which that's only going to appeal to certain people who, I don't want to call them smarter, but they're more diligent about their actions. But a lot of people are going to, especially if they're panicking, they're going to say, oh, emergency end stake, whatever, I don't care. They're not going to think that far. So I always thought of it. I came to the conclusion that it was a deterrent for emergency end stake. That's why there's not more information, because they don't, if you saw all the information in front of you, then you may not, you may do it, or you may not, you may make that decision because you have the data. That's what I've read off as, but I don't know. Do you think that's accurate, or what do you think?
So the other possibility is these accounts that are not nuking themselves, but that are just giving up a huge dollar value of interest. Anybody who staked before the big payday will lose their big payday, all of their big payday interest, plus the normal penalties that apply. Whereas people who emergency on stake with stakes that started after the big payday are not losing as much of a percentage of their investment based on the amount of time served, but are still losing 50% if you've only served half your time, you lose all your interest. And then if there's some weird thing, if you like stake less than 90 days and don't do half, then you can nuke it all or something, I think.
A little bit, yeah. There's definitely fluctuation in there, because if you do 50%, you know, I've heard of people saying, "Oh, I thought I was going to get 50% back," and then it's less, and they're like, "Why?"
Yeah.
And then, so it must be that kind of rule there.
But there's there's another use case that somebody had posted on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and I lost it. I can't find it now, but they had done a spreadsheet, and it showed it, based on all the blockchain data, that in the past month or so, there are more people who are ending these valuable stakes like halfway, at the halfway mark. And there's been a spike up. And so the psychology behind that is that people who maybe they put in $1,000. All right, let's take somebody who put in $5,000 in the beginning. And they made 5 stakes, and each of those stakes now is worth $1 million. Well, if they don't have any other income, and they have a stake that, you know, is halfway done and has another, you know, couple of years to go, then they don't mind losing $500,000 so that they can get the $500,000 out, because they only put in 1,000.
Right.
So that's another thing we're starting to see more of. We know we're seeing more of it because it's on the blockchain. So there are more people out there that are just giving away these huge sums of money because of how fast HEX appreciated.
Yeah, I want to talk about too. I like Jared. We're going to tell you an Omega 369. Yes. I want to, because you made a point about how HEX, you know, delayed gratification saves you from yourself, that type of thing. Every once in a while, I'll go through, you know, some thread, some HEX hater thread, and see, you know, especially if the well-known person, and see what people are saying, and see what, you know, usually it's the same thing. Oh, it's a scam, blah, blah, blah. But every once in a while, I'll find a nugget, and I thought I came across something that was interesting. I hadn't really thought much about. What would you say to the counter argument to it saves you from yourself? What would you say to what I've heard before proposed, which is staking for that long, for example, 15 years, 10 years, whatever, a long period of time? There's actually, you know, it introduces this, maybe not a security risk directly, but if you lose your keys, for example, you can't, you know, move your stake to another wallet like you could. You know, I know in Hedron you can make it. You can move your HSI like an FT to a different wallet. So that's actually an interesting use case in Hedron that's not many people talk about. But with your HEX stake, if you're locked up for 15 years, you're basically saying, I am going to protect my keys for 15 years. And especially if you're not great at crypto security, you may stake for 15 years, and then 5 years later you realize, oh crap, I didn't do this correctly, or oh, I lost my seed, or I put it in the wrong place, whatever it is. How would you, you know, if you were having a debate, or you were trying to like counter that argument, like what is there any other than maybe Hedron with an NFT type stuff? Like how would you respond to that?
We could ruin HEX and we could ruin crypto trying to make it fit better to where people are at now, or we could actually do the work to get people to the point they need to be, to where this crypto can still work as designed. Tradable HEX stakes are a terrible idea. Maybe not the most terrible thing you could ever do. And I've come around on this a little bit, but that's not the point. You're not using the product as intended. If you're using tradable stakes, it's basically like holding liquid HEX without paying the same penalty, but you're not getting the benefit of protecting yourself from yourself when you have tradable stakes. And when you make these smart wallets that can transfer in case you get hacked, look, this is something that is totally underrated that Richard Heart has said. Perfect place to say it because this is our RHMaxi channel, the RHMaxi channel.
Yes, sir.
Stop screwing up onboarding by talking about security. Only 1% or less, 1% of 1% of people are ever going to have a problem with security. And the problem they're going to have is that they lose their keys. So the solution to that is it's not to stop everybody from onboarding and then they'll spend $100 on a ledger and then that's $100 of a negative externality when the average person maybe could only put in $20 or $200 or $2,000 into an investment. That's silly, because at the end of the day, the more work somebody has to do to get in before they get a taste of what is going to happen, then you're just bleeding out opportunity. A way better solution would be to accept the fact that 1% of people who are going to cry and be super loud are going to screw up their own security, and that there will be some people who don't take it seriously and lose everything because they lost their seed words. I've seen it happen to 1 out of 150 people I've onboarded, right? But if we focus on onboarding, then the price is going to increase, and then before everybody loses their keys, they're going to realize that they can back them up and write them down in extra time. So like if you invested $100 and now it's worth $5,000 a year and a half later, we could still go back and write down your seed words if you didn't write them down the first time, right? That's a much better solution. But I think that all of this kowtowing to try to make everything perfect is actually going to hurt adoption and hurt the growth that we could have, and a lot of the problems will solve themselves, or RIP to your original $200 investment, but now you're going to take it more seriously. That was very cheap tuition for you to take security more seriously now that you missed out on the 10x or 100x that HEX did because you lost your keys. Well, now we've got your attention, and you're going to participate in the community way better, probably, or you're going to be a better steward of your own funds.
That's interesting. So I like your point too. So it sounds like the trade-off is with tradable stakes, you're removing the delayed gratification in a way. You're removing that aspect, but there is a point to be made. The security aspect, if your wallet does get hacked, blah blah blah, you can transfer it to another place. So I never thought about removing.
No, you can't. No, you can't transfer it to another place because you've been hacked. So the person who hacked you transferred it to a different place.
Well, there's a race condition there. If you got
there's not a race condition because you don't know that you got hacked. 80% of the time, you don't know that you got hacked until somebody moves your most valuable thing or all of your things. Here's an experiment you can do, and I will prove this to you. So go back to RH's video where he showed people how to make a MetaMask, and write down those 12 seed words that he showed on the screen and send $5 worth of ETH to that account. It will disappear instantly because there are bots programmed to move anything that goes into that wallet out immediately. I did it twice because I thought it was so cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, if you show it to everyone on the internet, yeah, I get it. I mean, that's still, yeah, that's a good point. I think you made some good points.
So maybe like doing an OCT Hedron thing is like kind of cool, but the fact is, people have just extracted a lot of liquidity out of Hedron, and the tradable stakes thing is in general, I think it's a bad idea because it reduces buy pressure. And because you can have an infinite amount of volume on a 15-year stake, so it's not really a 15-year stake. And then people like me get super triggered when people are out there saying, "Oh, I made a maxi coin, and I got people to lock up, $50 million for 15 years." It's not locked.
Mm.
You and I must have different definitions of what locked means, because people are buying and selling it all the time. You know, people are selling it all the time, and that's not the point, in my opinion.
No, I definitely think you make some valid arguments against it. I can see, yeah, definitely the security aspect is, yeah. I'm happy to have the conversation. That was a good.
So what we could take from this is that like optionality is like, it sounds really good to people. But if we had left the optionality just in the fact that you can hold liquid HEX and you could pay the price for that by, maybe accidentally selling when the price goes down and accidentally buying when the price goes up, and by paying the inflation rate to the people who are time locking and dollar cost averaging in and out over 15 years, like that's the optionality that is intended. That's using it in its pros and cons. But any further optionality that gets built on could be a negative for the system in multiple ways, including at the individual level.
Yeah, I mean, the question I was asking myself the other day was like, why wouldn't you make a HEX stake that's tradable if you're given that optionality? But I think, yeah, you do make a good point with the series. It's not as, the trade-off is definitely, yeah, I think you convinced me a little bit. It is definitely bigger on the delayed gratification part, because you're removing one of the fundamental things from HEX from the system. I mean, I love a lot of community projects that are being built in Hedron and Maxi. I like those as well, but
I'm including both of those. Both those founders have been invited and accepted to speak at the Pulse conference.online. So I am not being a gatekeeping ideology maximalist guy. I am wanting to be super inclusive to the people who are building and to the entire community, because I think it's important for our own cohesion.
For sure. No, I mean, that's one of the most important things, is have an open mind. And everyone has their opinion. Everyone has their maximalism point as well. No, I respect that. I think that's a healthy thing. And the less gatekeeping and the more community building, the better. But everyone can choose their flavor. That's what's so cool about the community as well. So,
absolutely.
Very cool. I'm glad. Yeah, it was great. I like that. I mean, you definitely changed my perspective a little bit on it. Let me say hi to the chat real quick. What's up? Staying your ground. I mean, yeah, there you go. Astro 369, and then HEX went to there. That's a good point too, Max. HEX went to 2000 without ability structure or value checks. Yeah, I mean, I can see if we had this chart of trade-offs, I can see it flying. I know the chat's got their opinion too. Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, everyone share the link, like, sub, all that stuff. If you're not subbed yet, please do. Definitely helps the channel, helps to get the message out. Helps Matt. I don't know if Maddie would have came on if I had 50 subs. So I appreciate you getting me the several hundred I have now to keep getting good guests on. I want to pivot a little bit into so like with PulseChain.
Here it is.
PulseChain. There we go. Oh yeah. You know what? I kept thinking that was HEX for a minute. I think I just have this cognitive dissonance of like, on the back. Okay. Well, I mean, I've seen the front one this whole time. I just have like this blur of all the projects together. But yeah, here's mine. I got.
Ooh, that's a nice one. Yeah, wow, look
solid.
At that.
No back, but solid. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yours too. Where'd you get yours?
Oh, what is it called? The one that Motley turned me on to. I'll think of it here in a little bit. Shapeways. Shapeways.com.
Yeah. That's where I got this one too, but for some reason I didn't. I like that style. That's a different style than the one that the one that I've seen Brandware and other people too, because he's got a silver. I think he's got a silver pulse. I've got a gold pulse. Let me grab it real quick.
Ooh.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Shiny object syndrome. That's
nice.
It. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of rotate which one I wear. But anyways, yeah. PulseChain. That's the question I want to ask you in particular too. Was like, so let's say everything goes well, everything goes as planned. We create. Richard keeps creating these millionaires on RHMax.org website. It says Richard creates more millionaires every year. I truly believe that, and I'm pretty sure there's data to back it up as well. PulseChain launches, HEX successful, everything's great. In the next half decade, 5-10 years, what do you think are some of the things that I know there's Compassion Cartel with Crypto Heartbeat, and there's a whole Pulse Promise deal where you want to put funds together to tackle some of these world problems. But what do you think the more rich Hexicans, the more rich Pulsicans, everything that we make from Richard Heart's products, what are some of the things that aren't getting the investment today that people can invest in? Like they can look into and say, hey, I want to make a difference. Like, what do you think in the next 10 years would be good for people if they're looking around to put some money into to do some good? What do you think is a good investment?
I think people will invest in a lot of things that are good investments and bad investments. I think people will learn over time. That's another reason why having your HEX staked out, it gives you time to evolve as a person, to get better at understanding business and investing outside of the RH ecosystem. I think that Richard, I predict he'll continue to make products that are world-class, and but he won't be able to make everything. And so the next project that but I mean, so there's going to be a difference between things that give you a 10,000x return and things that just meet some other need for you. And if you're doing something that meets another need, like Art donating $2 million to an animal shelter, like he's accepting that like his bags are good enough how they are. His bags are already packed for every possible thing he could do. And so that's coming from an abundance mindset. And it's not, he's no longer trying to like solely focus on greed. At the same time, a lot of venture capitalists, they only IPO whenever they think that their market is at a peak. And so, I think some people will have the mindset, hey, I'd like to give more money to the Sense Foundation now, but if I put my $5 that I could give them now into PulseX, back when it was 10,000 points per dollar, and then in 5 years will I be able to give them $500,000 or $5,000 or something like that, right? So
could people send Pulse when it launches? Or can they keep coins like that and just watch them appreciate, stake, whatever?
So I've created a way for people to send money directly to Aubrey de Grey, and to send money to the Methuselah Foundation, which will then fund the things that Aubrey de Grey is doing. The money that we sacrificed to the Sense Foundation got hijacked by the evil board of directors, and the people who sacrificed are now suing them for it to get it back.
Wow.
So that's why we're not donating directly to the Sense Foundation. We still like the scientists who work at the Sense Foundation. We still like the person who founded it. We just don't like who's on the board of directors. And right after I, it helped put the spotlight on Aubrey de Grey, and he took the HEX conference as his opportunity to speak out against the board of directors. And I wrote kind of a hit piece article on my blog about one of the guys, just highlighting how much of a bad actor he was being. Like half of the board resigned right after that. And the other half stuck around, and then they tried to pull a stunt where they were like inviting Richard Heart to be on the board, which like it still would have been that was in bad faith that they were offering that, because it still would have been a minority position between Aubrey and Aubrey supporters. And so imagine founding a organization that is the leading organization that does this type of cellular research, that it has basically a delayed gratification roadmap. They are only doing things that everybody else won't do because it's too far of a time horizon. And they've made some great progress in the field taking that approach. And then it gets hijacked by a bunch of VCs who are short-term minded, who are worrying about what companies they can spin out and how they can enrich themselves and how they can slow down the long-term minded people. And, so that's why I went to the Bitcoin conference, and I met face-to-face with the director, with the founder and CEO of the Methuselah Foundation, which is the parent organization of SENS. And SENS spun out of David Goebel's co-founding of the Methuselah Foundation with Aubrey de Grey. And so I met with them. We are working with them so if you want your tax write-off and you don't want to give it to the evil SENS board until we get control of that organization back to Aubrey de Grey, you can send directly to Aubrey de Grey's MetaMask wallet, or you can send to Methuselah Foundation's wallet that will give you the tax write-off, and then it'll go into Aubrey's fund. And I will give you a free NFT for every $1,000 that people donate. And there's like levels that you can get to through that. I am a huge supporter of this longevity idea, because it really addresses all aspects of medicine and disease, or many, when we talk about how do we make cells younger and healthier in the first place? How do we reverse the aging process? And so if people go to my Medium blog, I have posted there with like the links where you can verify to Aubrey de Grey's Twitter that he posted that this is his official donation address. And there's a donation address for the legal fund, and there's a donation address for the Methuselah Foundation that's also linked and posted to their official donation address.
Nice. I'm glad there's ways to fund Aubrey. I was going to ask you too, like, do you see him and Richard teaming up? Do you see there being a heart foundation in the future? Since, I speculate, and this is what I say, I think crypto is a means to an end for Richard to be the best in the world at longevity, be remembered for saving people's lives, saving people time, things like that. That's my opinion. Do you think that's in the future, them starting some kind of organization together, and it being well funded? As we know, Richard he is well funded.
I think that he might collaborate, but not like necessarily put Aubrey in charge. Because Richard might do something like create a group of basically like a brain trust, like he did for PulseChain. I was one of the 75 people in the brain trust for that, to where he's collecting all the best ideas in the world from the experts, and then he's making the decisions for himself using the game theory that doesn't appear to exist anywhere else in the world, where this person is a billionaire in so many other assets that he doesn't have to sell the things that he creates. So when you sacrifice to PulseChain and PulseX, it's not the same as sacrificing to anything else. It's not the same as investing in anything else, because the founder is going to be never selling, probably. So I think that like that is a really innovative and like futuristic, just like business model. And the other thing that we have to consider that's like, extremely deep level stuff is that, remember when Richard launched PulseChain, the sacrifice for it, that was a time when hexagons had experienced such face melting gains that it would have been easy for people to dump the price into oblivion, because they didn't need the money. And so to get like, I can't remember the exact statistics. It was like a third or a half or 2/3 of all the liquid hex that existed got sacrificed into those products, which it has a compound effect because it protects the hex price and it allows people to extract a huge amount of value in something that is probably going to be extremely valuable, which is a replacement for Ethereum. And so we could see that business model, like, and that new paradigm shift continuing with the wallet next, RH's wallet product, and then like some sort of, and that can be funded too by what are we paying in MetaMask to use the swap button? Like a little bit less than 1% or something, which is a fat fee for crypto. And so the wallet will have a revenue source that will make it valuable, just like PulseX and PulseChain have great game theory about why they should be valuable. And then the next could be some futuristic stable coin that doesn't have the same problems as everything else that he's hinted at. Then after that, it could be longevity. Richard has been consistent over many, many, many years saying that just like you're saying, that crypto is a means to make the world a better place, and that he sees, for example, the Highest of Stakes posted a 1-minute clip of him today talking about how he wishes his dog could have lived to 100.
Yeah, I remember the streams where I remember he had the dog, and then the dog went away, and him talking about
really?
being sad about it. Yeah, I remember those streams back then. It was unfortunate. So, we had a question here too from Astro369. How do you know a foundation you're donating to isn't going to pull something with the money? That's it. Yeah, Maddie, you want to take that? Like, how can you have confidence in the organizations and donating to stuff like that?
In like broad strokes, I can say that you can find out the exact numbers, but Aubrey de Grey, when his mother died, he inherited a small fortune of maybe like 10 or $12 million, something like that. Yeah. And he only kept 1 or 2 million for himself, and he donated the entire remainder of the money to the cause that he was fighting for, which is longevity, to pay scientists to do research that would benefit all. And he hasn't benefited from that sacrifice that he made, other than making lots of connections and continuing to give everything that he has practically for the cause. So just like the game theory of the OA suggests that because based on past behavior, and the person didn't, stray from, they didn't take the opportunity to rug pull then. And so like you have some more confidence than with a stranger that they're not going to rug pull in the future. It's not complete certainty, and everything's probabilistic, but that is why I have confidence in Aubrey above others.
Skin in the game. Yeah, that's definitely one of the aspects.
But to criticize that, Aubrey didn't do a good job of picking who would be on the board of directors. Methuselah Foundation doesn't have that problem because the founder, it was co-founded by Aubrey and Dave Goebel. Dave Goebel's philosophy was, I will control the board. And a fun fact, Methuselah Foundation got gifted like $300 million worth of dog coins by Vitalik. And now David Feeder and I are working with them to try to get their coins off of Coinbase so that they can get a free copy on the PulseChain. So,
ooh, juicy. I like it. I like it. We got another question here from Gold Keys. So Maddie, since you can trust yourself, are you not going to hold Peel? Yeah.
Gold Key seems like a great community member. I was following him back when he called himself Richard Hart's son. And, just because I criticize somebody, that comes from kind of my academic training of, I'm trying to criticize the ideas here because that's how I learn and that's how others learn. So, you can try to dig at me back because you think I'm digging at you, but like at the end of the day, we all are going to promote whatever use case we find most effective. For me, I worked with people who, it was an accomplishment for them to save $1,000. That was life-changing for the, because I worked for 7 years, working with people who make less than $15,000 a year. Many of them made nothing, extreme poverty. People can't keep their water bill paid, so they reek, and they're homeless, or they are constantly almost dying because of overdose and every life problem you can think of. And so I dedicated my time and energy to these people, and I was so passionate about being a substance abuse and mental health counselor that I worked like 10, 11 hours straight every day. I intermittent fasted. I loved talking to people and helping them. And so my reality got shifted a lot to the majority of people I was talking to, like in the world, like that's, to me, that's how the world works, was like everybody is, in poverty. And I know that not everybody's in poverty, but look, so sometimes I think about things from somebody who is not already rich's point of view, somebody who really, they don't have a clean record, so they're never going to get a really awesome job. They're always going to be at the mercy of the worst of humanity. But for people like that, especially, maybe even more than myself, who I was privileged enough to go and get a graduate degree and that sort of thing. Like, to me, how amazing would it be for somebody who, they don't have anything. All they have is $100. They put it into HEX early on. We're still early now. And then it would be impossible for somebody who, not impossible, it would be extremely unlikely for somebody who comes from a monetary environment that's treated them so poorly, where the price of everything goes up and you can't afford anything. It would be very bad for that person if they had access to all their liquidity. And so creating immutable stakes and saving yourself from yourself, like it's an important platform for me, probably because of my background. And I
think just debating these ideas a bit, especially in public, it helps everyone learn. Again, everyone's going to have a different perspective. Of course, hopefully we'll get to see you and Gold Key, or you and Dipcatcher to go at it. It's for Maxi versus HEX someday too.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily applying my own logic, because I advocate for people having a staking ladder of immutable stakes, and then having liquid as well. So when the price goes up, you can sell. So it's not that I'm advocating for full 100% staking and to do only 15-year stakes. Look, if you want to look at somebody more extreme than me, go look at Kareem. His shortest stake is 10 years. He designed his monetary environment so that, and pushed delayed gratification so that he would have to keep working. He wouldn't have a choice. He was public about this, which is why I'm comfortable talking about it. But it's like, he didn't hold enough money to live for more than 3 months. Like, he was living, paycheck to paycheck, putting everything into HEX 10 years to 15 years out.
That's an interesting way to do it. A lot of people, I would assume the most common scenario is, people want HEX to go up, Pulse to go up, because they want their time back now. They want that. It's funny. It's almost like I don't even know how to call it, but it's like this. It's a short-term thinking, but with a long-term asset in a way. But anyways, they want the freedom now. They want the time back now. And Kareem, it sounds like he's doing the looking at the other way of saying, I want, maybe he likes his job, he likes his career, and he wants to delay gratification so long in the future because, maybe he's looking for that $1 billion. He's looking for things like that. And that's a notable exception that I don't really hear. I don't really see a lot of people talk about it or doing it that way. That's very interesting.
And to wrap up, no pun intended, to wrap up the wrapped stake talk,
Oh, wow.
To respond to this, so it says, if you truly cared about the small stakers you described, you would see how Maximus maxes bonuses for them. They can never get on their own and eliminates end stake gas fees for most. This is something that I educated Richard Hart about, is that the maximum, and Richard said that I did on the Twitter Spaces, that in my opinion, the maximum return doesn't come from the whale bonus that you can get if you're in max. It doesn't come from the 40% APY. It doesn't even come from the price appreciation. It comes from the minimizing counterparty risk with yourself, because nobody, even whether they're rich or poor, can hold on to the face melting gains that are before us. If you held on through the 10,000x, good luck with your strong hands when we get to 1,000,000x or more. So we can agree to disagree, or keep keep exploring what the pros and cons are to everything.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, again, respectful, constructive criticism, feedback, interaction. I mean, that's how we all learn. That's how, perspectives change. That's how we kind of get both sides and decide for ourselves what we like. So very good questions there, Gold Key. And thanks, Matt. I think you presented your side as well. Very cool. I wanted to maybe one more thing, if we can. Outrage marketing. So great segue, right? Outrage marketing. So are we getting a Red Bull sponsorship or what? I keep saying Red Bull cans everywhere. Is that just a size thing, or am I right there? That's what I'm talking about. Are we going to be is Richard's face going to be on a Red Bull can? Are we going to be on the Space Moon guy that's walking, and we're going to, how far do you think he can take it as far as making us known in the broader spaces?
I mean, if we're brainstorming, maybe he should buy Red Bull. That'd be cool. I don't think he would ever do that, because the ROI wouldn't be good enough for him.
You buy Red Bull, right? You buy Red Bull. You get that fun together.
a free sponsorship. They do that sort of thing. It's the outrage marketing is hard to appreciate if you have your net worth tied up with an individual who is then trying to intentionally do controversial things. And especially in today's polarized society, it's something that not everybody can get behind. With that being said, a lot of people can get behind number go up. And so at the end of the day, people who don't believe in Richard, they can get shaken out for all I care. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but it's kind of like with the emergency end stake button. It's like, if you don't know why it's designed that way, then do more, hopefully you'll get educated. Hopefully somebody will get through to you. I loved this morning that Richard retweeted what somebody had said. If you don't like the outrage marketing, then that's the perfect opportunity for you to realize that Richard doesn't work for you, and that it's up to you to do the type of marketing that you want to see. With that being said, that's what we're here doing. We're bringing different brands and different personalities to the mix. When we fight as a community, that attracts some people and it repels some people. In the end, people should settle with the right blend of entertainment that they want, and seriousness or silliness. I think that a special shout out to whoever did the 200,000 HEX postcards. That onboarded that.
Yes, that's great. I love that type of stuff.
That person who went on Crypto Coffee's show, who was the 21st employee at Google and who bought into Bitcoin in 2011. Now, I don't think that's the only person we want to attract, because it sounds like he's kind of a degen trader who's not even interested in the price of HEX going up that much, but just wants to arbitrage everything. But him speaking out publicly is I think it's a small turning point, in that you know, this is one way to break through the gatekeeping and the censorship and the fact that we live in a world where people's attention spans, it's all the advertising dollars are competing for a limited amount of people's attention and time. I think it's commendable that Richard Heart has not gone against, his own philosophy of not enriching middlemen. He's showing his patience by not giving lots of money to Facebook and Google to jam advertising down your throat, to not going out there and buying off senators to, change certain laws here and there. Like, look, the senators, the people who work in the government, like, they're going to buy in eventually. It's a matter of like us being patient and us realizing that, how incredible is it that Richard has gotten people to buy into something, and now we've paid for the pleasure for people to dump on our heads if we're time locked, and we've paid for the pleasure to like have it our own responsibility to go out and advertise. Like, it's it's incredible. Like, but that's the best way to get people to work together, probably, or it's at least a way that's never been tried before in human history.
I still don't understand why there's not a billboard somewhere. Why have we not seen a picture with Richard's face on it, richardheart.com, him? It doesn't have to be with a Red Bull can, it could be anything, but like, why haven't we seen, a expose in a magazine with him yet? Is it just because the community hasn't funded it, or is it not? Is there like something legally we can't do? Like, what's that?
We've seen some examples of it. There was one HEX billboard. If you use
HEX
like
billboard, I was thinking, I thought something got shut down because of, and then they were going to do Richard Hart's face on a billboard, but that didn't work out.
Really?
What was the story?
I didn't hear about that, but I knew that there was a HEX billboard like a year ago. I know that a year or year and a half ago, there were one or two advertisements about HEX in The Economist magazine. Yeah, but then The Economist blocked further advertising, including even just for Richard Heart and not even HEX, but him just promoting himself. And so
I thought that was the loophole. Like he could do ads for himself, but then I thought on some stream he was like, "Oh, they wouldn't let me do that." I still don't understand why.
He thought it would work because it's gaming the system. Because it's so lucrative for people to create coins, and it's so unbelievable what HEX has done. HEX is too good to be true. It always has been, and it may always, it may continue to be for some time. But think of what this creates. All the gatekeeping allows for more organic growth. People such as myself and Art Morikawa, like, teaming up with the HEX photographer Pascal, like, we're working on a little campaign of our own, perhaps, because we did a little photo shoot of Art, like balling out, giving money to charity. Art has a cat who's a millionaire.
You say he has a cat that's a millionaire?
Yes.
Blown right now.
Do I need to explain?
Does he eat good? How does that even? Is he like? Yes, please elaborate.
So so Art. So Art had bought in early and had created a separate wallet, of course, for his referral bonuses, and ended up gifting his referral bonus wallet to his cat, who, like, at a critical moment in HEX history, the cat had like jumped onto his chest, and it was like the middle of the night, and he was like getting ready to sell some HEX for the first time ever or something, and the cat like started purring and stopped him, and then I think that's when the HEX Godwell came in and like doubled the price the next day. So Art like waited like probably a couple more months before selling his first round of HEX. And so he, so it's clear how the cat like earned, his referral bonus anyway. The cat's name is Hexy. And so the cat was named after HEX. And now the animal shelter is named after the cat. So it's Hexy's animal shelter in Kankakee, Illinois. An incredible story. We have the exclusive story to share with people. We for animal lovers, it's kind of one of these weird news stories. So I'm hoping we can do something with that. If HEX was immediately on CoinMarketCap and Richard was in charge of all the advertising alone and stuff, like, we wouldn't be coming up with all these weird angles to try to, put a millionaire cat on a postcard and send it to cat lovers all over and have a QR code for people to watch Art's testimonial video and stuff. Like, the HEX community is decentralized. There's a Telegram group that will give you instructions and templates and a distribution mechanism to where you upload your image, and then the postcard about HEX can get sent out to the richest zip codes in the United States without you ever licking a single stamp. It's like at cost, like 30 or 40 cents per piece. So there's an incredible amount of value and opportunity being created by people taking a percentage of their gains, like myself and Art and others are doing, and reinvesting it into growing the ecosystem and this kind of guerrilla marketing, outrage marketing, community organic
marketing.
Yeah,
that's amazing, man. It's wow. It just reminds me, there was a show called Nick Swartzen's Pretend Time. I'm pretty sure no one's ever heard of it. Maddie, have you?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, it's a very dirty show, but he's one of the funniest comedians ever. It only had like 2 seasons, but one of the seasons had a character called Wheelchair Cat. And Wheelchair Cat Trust Fund Kitty. And it was about this cat who inherited all these millions of dollars, but then the jealous grandson, got him into an accident. So now he's paralyzed. It's just a cat in a wheelchair. It's hilarious. I love Nick Swartzen's content, but Wheelchair Kitty, you just made me think of Trust Fund Cat with that story. Oh my gosh. I got to go watch Nick Swartzen.
I just
hilarious.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. Wheelchair Cat. That's a great episode. Man, thank you. You made me laugh hysterically. That was amazing. Allin said you broke RHMax. Yeah. I didn't know what was going to come next after you said a cat was a millionaire. That's I don't hear that every day. So
not the richest cat in the world yet.
Not yet.
But someday.
Hey, not a billionaire cat. The cat has a chance. He has a chance.
That's right.
He only needs one life to be Hexy and get and just kill it. It's going to be good. Not kill it. It's the wrong phrasing for that. Stay alive, cat. Stay alive forever. Enjoy your billions. You're going to eat good for a long time. And that's right. That's a great story. That's a testimonial right there.
It is.
Maddie, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. To chat, you all clip that. That will be clipped as long as Maddie's okay with it. I will talk about Millionaire Cat. That would be super funny and a great comedy relief for the bear market for sure. Everyone, Allin's got some amazing cats. Nobody's going to forget the cat story on this show. Now, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for giving me your Friday, at least a small sliver of it. It sounds like you're working on some really cool projects, banging it out for the community. Excited to know there is a Pulse conference in July, a virtual one, and I don't know why I wouldn't be there. I will definitely be tuning in.
Right on.
So,
well, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It's been great. Yeah. It's let's do it again sometime. Let's do it again.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Until next time, everyone. Like, subscribe, check out Maddie's content. Check out his he's dropped some links for various projects he's working on. He's doing a lot of good work out there. And until next time, we'll see you guys all later.